I have decided that I am really bad when it comes to my first impressions of people. Disclaimer, when it comes to really yucky people or people I would completely clash with, I tend to be spot on. However, as I look at my pool of closest friends, I realize that almost every time I didn't have a stellar first impression of them. Now, I do have a couple of friends who did manage to slide by without me having any negative impressions. But for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna talk about the negative impressions. Everyone talked about in this video will remain anonymous, with the exception of my husband, so you guys don't need to worry. Second disclaimer, none of my friends are bad or dodgy. We'll start with some of my girlfriends. I met 4 of them freshman year. The first time I really remember her was when we were having a floor party and I was with my roommate. I thought she was really nice, but we were like, does she feel awkward? I couldn't tell. So we kind of judged her as being a really strict kind of person. As it turns out, she's really funny and oftentimes does not say the most proper things at all. I didn't really know her because she didn't live on my floor, but one time we were having a movie night. I said I was gonna get really excited when the Disney Castle came on, and she said something like she was gonna giggle with me, and I thought that was strange because I'm really introverted and I didn't know what to think about that. And later on, as we were driving to the place where we were going to watch the movie, she sang a lot in the car, and I like singing too, but I didn't know what to think. She's the friend mentioned in the singing video. I was hanging out with the first girl mentioned, and we were going to go see Princess Bride, and this girl happened to mention how much she hated Buttercup. Now, to be honest, is anyone really a massive fan of Buttercup? She's kind of a wimp, but still, she was really going after her. I thought it was a little weird that she was so loudly opposed when clearly it was just kind of a fairy tale story. Regardless, I've become close with those girls. We've been roommates together, and they are still some of my best friends. With male friends, it's pretty much been the same story. I think they're a little too rude, or a little too loud, or a little too strange. I don't understand the way they're behaving towards everybody. Although there is one story in particular. We were going with a whole bunch of friends up to have a bonfire. There wasn't enough car seating, so I ended up having to sit on his lap, but I had never met him before, ever. It was kind of weird. He was new, but he seemed nice enough. And then he said something along the lines of how we should throw a dance party where, like, really strict people would think the music's bad, but it's not. Needless to say, I thought he was a little bit weird after that. But now he's one of my closest friends, if he'd ever return my messages. Finally, we get to talk about Todd. So the first time I met Todd, he was with our other really good friend, who we're still friends with today, married to the Buttercup hater. I had just moved into our housing unit, and they asked if I wanted to play poker. Well, I'm not into that, and I was in the middle of a movie, so as soon as my roommates came out, I ditched them. Todd said, well, it's okay if you wear your pajama pants, and I said, these are yoga pants. And he said, I didn't know those were a thing, and I left. Yeah, just like that. The next time I remember seeing Todd was when I was in the kitchen cooking with 2 of my aforementioned girlfriends. We were talking about how PDA is just a little bit too, and Todd was saying, oh, when he has a girlfriend, he likes to be all affectionate and be like, look, this is my girl. So we were wondering why he was just prattling on and telling us this stuff, and after he left, I was like, okay, so no one date him. But after that meeting, Todd came over one time when there was a football game going on, and he said, hey, everybody I know is watching the game or is at the game. You're the only person who's not. So I invited him in, and we talked. We had a ton in common, and he's the first peer, the only peer I've ever had in my whole life, where after a conversation I've thought, I want to be friends with you. And then I married him. Oh. So I'd like to apologize now to any of my friends who recognized those stories as being them and didn't know I had a weird first impression of them. I love all of you now. I'm sorry I'm such a skittish little introvert. To everyone else, your first impression might not always be right, so always talk to someone twice. Unless they're a creeper.